So you want to work in big tech companies like Google and Facebook, or create your own startup like Airbnb and Instagram? OmniQuotient is here to help. OmniQuotient is an online learning platform where you can learn something new from prominent developers every day while creating meaningful connections with them. Just go to omniquotient.com. Follow the topics that you want to learn and the developers you want to learn from. Share your tips and tricks in coding and interact with other developers. Join the OmniQuotient community today.
What I've seen that hinders a lot of people in general is they believe that doing their job well actually gets them promoted.
So how would you demystify AI for a 10-year-old?
It's actually harder to explain AI to an older person. Hi, welcome to CTOs Discuss. Hello.
Hi, everyone. It's Saturday once again, and we are back with another episode of CTOs Discuss. So we are actually on our third to the last episode for this month's theme, which is IT as a career. And tonight we're talking about project management or Scrum, for those who are quite familiar. So we've invited two distinguished and very experienced guests for tonight. And Bert, baka would you mind introducing our first speaker?
Yeah, so our first guest is from Symph as well. He's actually now our Chief Operating Officer of Symph. But he started out as a project manager intern, then became a full-time project manager.
Nice.
And then just really, now he's in charge of the whole thing, basically. So yeah, his name is Jarrhey De la Peña, and super excited to actually ask him all about this project management stuff. Go ahead, Jerb. Introduce our other distinguished guest.
Sige. So the other guy that we've invited is Ron Gonzales or Brunel Gonzales. But you can call him Ron for short. Ron is our Assistant Vice President and Head of Project Management in UBX naman. So Albert invited their project management from Symph, and then I invited our project manager in UBX. And Ron's been in quite a journey, I guess. He has tons of experience in project management, and I'm also quite excited actually to get to know how he started his career and how he made it to where I guess where he's at right now. No, so without further ado, let's bring them to the stage.
Welcome, Jarrhey and Ron.
Hello. Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. I like your setup, Jarrey. Ang linis, parang ganda.
My personality in the background.
Oo. Similar to our house kasi yung theme. So, I think my wife, si Marcy, would appreciate your whole setup. Ron, Jarrey, how are you guys?
I'm okay.
I'm good.
I'm enjoying the weekend.
All right. Siguro let's start na. Maybe how we can start the ball rolling is maybe you guys can introduce yourselves to the viewers. Very quickly, your name, role, what you do, where you work. Maybe Ron, you can go first.
Okay. So, hi everyone. I'm Ron Gonzales. I'm currently the head of Scrum and additionally QA na rin for UBX Philippines. So, I've been in this role for around 2 years. Actually, nag-pioneer pioneer sa UBX. Previous companies, before I started with UBX from Union Bank, and my longest stay was with Accenture.
But project management all the way.
Yeah, baka I'll talk about later
Sure.
how I started talaga.
Okay,
But
okay.
yeah, I'm a PM then sa Accenture.
Abangan ang twist mamaya. So if you're just watching now, do not leave. Ron is gonna, enlighten the mystery of his career path. Go, Jarrey. How about you?
Well, I'm Jarrhey De la Peña. I'm the Chief Operating Officer in Symph. And yeah, I started out as a project management intern, then a project manager, then now I'm the Chief Operating Officer. That's it.
Very simple. Um, okay,
Galing.
so what we really want to start now, because most of the people watching, they're early in their career or they're about to make their career choices, their first career choices. So we want to get to know your stories when you were starting out. I mean, now you're here, all right? But back then, how did you make your first choices? So first of all, like, was project management your first choice? Ron, this is the part maybe like, you get started
You
or
can enlighten.
now. I'm too curious already, so let's just go.
Yeah, actually, I started as a developer.
Mm-hmm.
Way back, I started as a junior software engineer, and before talaga, wala akong background sa IT, sa programming and all, but we were developed. Parang nagkaroon ng bootcamp sa Accenture, and then we were developed. Funny thing is, sobrang luma nung programming. Mainframe pa yung programming ano ko. So, you know
Cobol,
kung gaano
cobol.
nakatagal. Yes, COBOL.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yun, doon nag-start. And then, the funny thing is, transition lang ako to project management, not because I really wanted to, but
Okay.
yung mga leads ko during that time either resigned or they moved in sa ibang country. So, actually, tuloy-tuloy yan. And ang nangyari is I was kind of forced in a way to
Mm-hmm.
do management, project management roles. And then yun, eventually I became parang head ng project management.
Cool. I mean,
So yun yung naging parang journey ko.
that's quite interesting. Na you were forced and you didn't like it. Okay. And then could you say that you kind of fell in love with it quickly, or was it like a slow process? I don't. I'm assuming you love it now.
Hmm.
Oo, dapat, di
Hmm.
ba? Pero, yeah. I guess there were some signs before in terms of this parang journey. Kasi initially, we had parang small, parang per team, magkakaroon ng contact for one project. And then eventually, when you mature, you will parang be assigned to be a project owner, or we call it back then requirement owner. So I assumed those roles because of the need then. And then, yeah, I fell in love with it. Kasi at the end of the day, you're working and building relationship with a lot of people talaga. And you're able to rally up people to parang achieve a common goal, a common project. And
Mm,
pag na-launch nyo na yung project nyo, iba yung fulfillment.
right. Cool. I'm curious about when you say force, right? Was it kind of like, at least in the beginning, was it like like
Mm.
somebody said, "Hey, be a project manager. This is the role. Be a project manager, and we're gonna transfer you here." Was it something like that? And then you kind of like, "Oh, I don't really like this," and then like, but I just
Oo,
got
or
forced by my
nag-apply ka dun sa
boss,
opening.
or was like you were forced by circumstance, right? Like
Oo.
there was
Yeah.
a choice, but there were not a lot of choices, and you proactively took it, even if you didn't initially like it.
More of nag-a-assume na ako ng role before.
Okay. Okay.
Because parang sa team namin, I was the only, I guess during that time, more senior na naiiwan. So,
Right.
I
Okay.
had to step up every time. And eventually, yun nga, parang I had to be the project manager. But don't get me wrong, because I was enjoying it naman. And
Okay.
I guess it's not really literally forcing it to me by
Yeah.
by my leads or by managers. It's I think they saw the potential and they
Mhm.
want me to really grow as project manager.
Cool. Okay. It's good that we clarified.
Yes, yes. Baka kayo mag-react.
Oo nga.
Gusto
Ikaw,
mag-react
Jarrey.
lang dyan.
Oo nga. Comment down below, guys. Jarrey, how about you? Like, how how did you get this opportunity? You mentioned that you started as a project management intern, and now you're COO, right? So how did that all start for you? And then, how did you
Was it
get
your
to
first
where?
choice?
Oh, was it your first choice?
It was my first choice, but it's like a yes, but a bit more complicated than that. Mid college, I had some introspection, some crisis there, and I had to ask myself what I wanted. And yeah, I wanted to be a project manager, but I never really saw it as like a first job. I didn't know if that was possible or not.
Mm.
So I remember thinking, 2 years max, I will be a developer 2 years max. After that, I need to be a project manager. Else, I'll go out of the IT industry and do something else. Because I realized that I wanted to be a project manager at some point.
Why? Why?
Because
And nothing wrong. I was just curious.
yeah,
Like
I know.
I don't meet people where they go, I wanna be a project manager, right?
Ang
It
galing nga eh,
was
kasi alam mo yung project manager. Kasi ako like this was 2009, right? When I graduated, I didn't know like what a project manager was. I know a software engineer. I know na there's a senior team leader and there's probably like a project leader, but I never thought of a project manager role. How did you know about a project management role?
well, we discussed it during college also. At the same time, just a little disclaimer,
Ah.
I'm young. So
Grabe naman.
no, I meant like I literally graduated like 2019 from a 5 year engineering course. So I took
So
a
Jarry's
Oh,
computer engineering
computer
background.
engineering.
I
Yes, and
see. I
we
see.
had a project management course. So I was a bit exposed to it already. And I was
Kaya,
the
kaya.
kind of person who can't settle doing one thing. Like I want to know what everyone else is doing, kind of person. Like I will never, I can sit on a chair if I need to, but I felt more fulfillment when I know what everyone else is doing.
Ah.
And in a good way. So in a sense, I kind of had a gauge that I wanted to be a manager, like empower people kind of job. And
Mm.
yeah, then long story short, I was scouting for like some job like internship, and I saw Symph posted like they want a project management intern. I didn't know what the qualifications were. I just knew. I don't know if they allow what they allow. They allow. I don't know if they allow. Wait, I don't know if they allowed like students to be a project management intern. But I just thought if maybe if I'm crazy enough to apply, they'll be crazy enough to accept me. And yeah, it did turn out well,
Yeah.
naman.
Oh no, na-disconnect ata si Ron. I mean, you'll never ayan there. You'll never know when like after you've took your shot, right? So good on
Yeah.
you for taking that shot. I'm
When nagano
actually
tayo na nag-tour tayo sa sa room ni Ron.
Yun
Hi
yun.
Ron.
house tour.
I don't know if Ron can hear us. Okay.
Okay lang. Jarrey, question, ano lang, siguro for the viewers who don't know what a project manager is, could you give them like a very quick, like day to day, like what does a project manager do? What's the role? Anong responsibility ng isang project manager? Para maintindihan ng mga viewers. Go.
So when I'm asked that question, my answer is kind of textbook. So four things, like four functions, and I hate that it's a textbook answer, but like it's really literally what I do: planning, leading, organizing, controlling. I feel like that summarized it well. From like planning the project to like planning kind of like prioritization, organizing the team, the deliverables, whatnot, leading leading the project, leading the team, then finally controlling or monitoring, making sure everything is going well. So that's like, and this can come in different forms. It can come in meetings. It can come in like reading a document, in watching a like looking at a board, if looking at the status and or coordinating with the team. So technically, all those different kind of forms to do planning, leading, organizing, and controlling, I would say.
So I was gonna make a statement like, see, spoken like a true project manager, like very organized, 4 points. Like I was like, I'm kind of just winging it. Ron, I don't know if you can hear us, but we're just Jarrey just gave us like what is a project manager?
You're
Like
on
what
mute
is
by the way, Rona. So we
yeah.
asked Jare like to define to the viewers like what does a project manager do? And Jare gave us the 4 points. Ano yan? Planning,
Leading.
leading, uh,
Organizing
organizing and
and
control.
controlling. Yeah.
Yeah. How
Ayan.
about you, Ron? If somebody asks you what a project manager is, I think there you go. Go ahead, Ron.
Sorry. Can you repeat that? I got disconnected.
Yeah. What when somebody asks you what does a project manager do? What's your job? Like what does a day look like? How do you answer that?
Nako, medyo mahirap na question yan, no? I think siguro when someone asks me that, I would say we build things. We deliver what is asked from us, and we rally people towards that goal.
Yeah. That's I really like the sense of ownership there, and I think that's
Uh-uh.
critical, right? I think that's
Uh-uh.
one of the things that we really expect from project managers is they really own the outcome and they rally people towards that outcome. That's okay. I like that. I
Yeah,
like
that's a
that.
good way of putting it.
Now,
Na
I'm curious.
go ahead, Bert.
What are usually the things that prevent you from rallying? Like, what are the problems that usually a project manager has
Wag
to
juicy
deal with
naman ang tanong ni Albert kaagad.
on a
Go ahead,
constant
guys.
basis or on a regular
Um,
basis? What are the
what are your
common?
blockers?
Yeah,
What are
go.
your
Run first. Go, Ron.
challenges? Go ahead.
Challenges, nako, sobrang dami. First off, yung budget. Dapat may budget kami. So we need to have budget, and I guess from the people side, no, every project kasi is different. Siguro throughout my journey, I haven't seen I haven't had a similar like parehas na project.
Mhm.
There's always a mix of people, and you have to adapt yourself to the people you work with. They have different personalities. May mga pasaway, may mga very efficient when it comes to work. So, in a way, you really have to find parang a style for you to really uh, parang you have to make the people believe in your goal, believe in the product you're delivering, and see the bigger picture. What does this, or how does this affect the people? How does this product change lives? So you have to have them realize that, so you will be able to really engage them in delivering.
Cool. What are your
Jare,
techniques? Go
go
ahead,
ahead. Go
Jare.
ahead. Jare, you might want to share some insights there on challenges for project managers as well.
For challenges, the challenges for me that would be lack of communication in a sense from whether the client you're working with, the users, or the teammates you're working with. Like anything that like any project where there's no constant flow of communication or easy communication, I would say would be a challenge, like the usual challenges I face.
Okay, let's segue to Albert's question. So I would position it this way, no? Kasi so far, right? So we've had an episode on software developers, software
Mm.
engineers, and then we have UX designers. Palaging natatanong kasi do I have to deal with people? You know, is it a social job? But this one so far in the conversation, no, it seems like it is talaga. It's a requirement that you deal with, people. You have to rally, you have to inspire, you have to, collaborate with people to get to certain milestones or achieve your objectives, diba? So to Albert's question earlier, like what are your styles, no? Parang paano nyo yun ginagawa? Ano, amidst all those challenges, how do you rally people or how do you, encourage, collaborate, inspire? Kasi I think yun yung pinaka, I guess,
Lalabas na
key
yung mga
thing.
technique. Ginamitan ako ng technique ni
Oo.
Ron.
Oo, ganun pala yun.
Kaya pala na-inspire ako.
Oo. Go ahead, Ron or Jarrey.
You go first, Ron.
Sige. Siguro just to add lang dun sa na-mention ni Jarrey kanina, what some people don't know about project management is that 90% dyan, 90% of your time is on communications talaga. So you will need to talk to people, do emails, and other forms of communication. So I guess yung style ko is more of really I don't really put parang force to people in terms of parang kasi ang style ko is napaka-stressful na ng IT job natin, no? We're always related with uh, deadlines na yung minsan yung deadline ng business kahapon tapos ngayon lang ibibigay. So, napaka-stressful yan with the team. And you don't want a team to feel more stressed dahil ikaw yung nag-a-add doon. You want them to feel parang you want to shield them from those unnecessary stress, and you want them to be more productive. And then how do they become more productive? By making sure they're in a safe space, they can raise their concerns sa'yo, and especially pag may issues. So, siguro sa mga experience ko before, pag takot kasi sa'yo yung team mo, they will try to hide the issues. So, they'll try to raise it and wait na lang. They will raise it kapag sumabog na or sasabog na. So, yeah, siguro yung style ko is trying to maintain a friendly, medyo light in terms of project.
I like that insight. Actually, it makes me
Yeah.
reflect on my leadership style as well. Like, I was like, am I friendly? Are they scared of me? Am I stressful?
Gaya ng sinabi ni CSJ last episode, di ba? Yung empathy. Be nice to people.
And then
Ikaw, Jarrey. Hindi, go ahead, Bert.
I was gonna say, Marcy is saying buys the team 500 pesos worth of fishball. Like who love that?
Parang niliteral ni Marcy yung sa Scrum kasi merong role ng isang Scrum Master na carry food and water. so, so baka yan yun. Ginawang totoong pagkain, no? Jarrey, ikaw, like what's your style? How do you rally people towards a goal?
It's not much different to what Ron said, but like to add to that, I'm the kind of person who wants to know what's up with their life at the same time. So like when I tell them when we need to go and reach a goal, they know I also know how busy they are, what's going on their life, and not just like as a coworker, but like as a friend. Like we're all human beings who has this goal for a project. So I usually start with those, establish that like okay, so that's where you are right now, and so we direct our work efforts to a certain goal and frame it that way.
Cool. There's a question here on chat and ayan. So si Lenly, thank you so much. So Anthony to, no? What's the challenges for project management before the pandemic and now during the pandemic na naka-work from home? Very curious. So
I'm very curious too.
Ron, go ahead if you want to start.
Siguro, prior to the pandemic talaga, it's more of sama-sama kayo ng team eh. So, you're able to talk with one another and really bond. So, may bond talaga yung team. So, when you have a team, siguro if new or luma na yung team mo, you go through stages kasi, especially pag new, or you have a new team member, there's what we call yung storming. So you try to jive the team talaga. So during or before the pandemic, that would be easier kasi you can come up with team building activities or yung kahit magdi-dinner out lang kayo or have some breaks and talk, have coffee and all. You can form that in order for the team to be bonded and you can have a common goal nga, no? But now, during the pandemic, mas naging struggle siya. Kasi aside from the parang mga personal stress and especially yung nag-start yung pandemic, ramdam na ramdam ng lahat na meron silang stress, may mga pinagdadaanan sila. Tapos, I guess for mga IT or developers or team members na nasa isang bahay with a lot of family members, medyo mahirap for them to work talaga. So, na-affect yung productivity nila, no? You kinda find or try to find means for you to still continue the things or the practices na you think it worked well before the pandemic. So ngayon, we try to schedule yung mga like weekly or quarterly na engagement activities. And then in terms of project management, you kind of check on them on a daily basis. So that's where really Scrum works very well. No, you have a chance to talk with one another daily.
Yeah, ang galing. So there's a comment here na building rapport is harder now during the remote work setup, and I think Ron kind of spoke about that challenge nga, no? But yun nga, to I guess help out, you can schedule virtual activities, right? I remember si Symph, I think Albert shared na they do ano yun, daily pa rin ba yun? Like it's
Yeah,
like
kickoff
there's a
syncs.
random kickoff syncs, and I think for the team naman in UBX they actually adopted that one when they heard that from the episode. The other thing is that they do mga Friday games or collaboration with the team lang, bonding kasi nga important talaga kasi yun na you kind of feel, number one, I think it's like you're a team, you're working together. Second is yung sinabi ni Ron kanina na about safety, right? Na you're in a safe environment, quote unquote, or team na you can approach people kasi nga parang if they're afraid of you, I guess, or merong tinatago, di ba? Parang sinabi ni Ron kanina. So parang usually tendency is dulong-dulo na, very urgent na, dun palang lalabas kasi tinatago nila kasi natatakot sila sa'yo. Jarrey, what do you think about that? Like, do you agree with those challenges, or do you feel like it's not actually like a challenge for you? How do you deal with those things?
Well, Symph, like I think Symph has done, like as a team, has done a great job in like motivating people to work. At the same time, I do agree that it's harder now, especially when like they're working on their own homes and they have many things going on. Because when you're in an office, you all know what you are doing. You all know you share the same environment, and right now, like when you talk to someone, little do you know, like they have problems that just came up, or like
or the best one, delivery be right back.
yeah, those
Or may
things.
construction sa background pag nagmi-meeting. Go ahead, Jarrey, go ahead.
Yung
Yeah,
funniest
that
thing
one.
is pag may mga tumitilaok sa background.
Ringtone.
Kakagising lang ng mga manok. Yeah, totoo. You were saying, did we cut you there, Jarrey?
No, that was it. Like I think that's the challenge actually, especially like keeping them on the zone, I guess. At the same time, like the challenge before pandemic, I would say, is like setting a time to reach out someone, because you're in an office hour, and it's harder also in your flex time, right? I can go out anytime, go back in. But right now, there's no longer a challenge on this online,
Mm.
on this work from home setup. At the same time, there's like a balance you have to strike of, I can't just interrupt someone to like to discuss something.
I
But
love
yeah,
I love how this is the fresh perspective, right? Because on the other side, the perspective is like with flex time before, it was interesting because you could walk in the
Naging
office and you get
benefit.
out, right? Yeah, naging benefit ngayon nga pag pandemic work from home from a manager's perspective na I can just like ping people anytime now. Yeah,
Benefit
and
or
yeah, I mean,
depende, depende.
depends.
and I agree. It's like the balance, right? It's a negotiation and a communication that needs to happen. That hey, like, what's your schedule look like, or what's your actual? Because I know I can ping you anytime, but what's the expectation around when do you reply and so on?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. What helps with me, and this is what I actually do. If it's not urgent, I always start it with that. No, na hey, this isn't urgent. You can reply to this on Monday or tomorrow. But then I'll shoot the question, right? Kasi minsan kasi kahit naman nung work from office setup, if there's really a pressing concern, like regardless if you were from the office, nakauwi ka na, matatawag ka pa rin talaga eh, 'di ba? Kasi urgent eh, critical eh. But now lang kasi I think dahil nga, and I think I've talked about this before, you did din ata, Bert, na parang there needs to be like a balancing act at the same time. For me talaga personally, parang nawala kasi yung parang quote-unquote sanctity of the home na tipong before kasi like after office, when you get out of the office, okay na. Pagdating mo sa bahay, it's, your refuge, right? Like you rest and hindi ka na nagtatrabaho or pahinga ka na, ganun. But now they're all mixed together. So I guess that's why a lot of people are kind of having challenges. Actually, si Bogart Almadin sabi niya, ngayong pandemic wala na yung feeling na relax ka pag nasa bahay ka na. Oh, ayun. Pero I think
Yeah.
like do you guys relate to that? Kasi I think before kasi kayo meron na kayong flexi hours and you guys actually had work from home arrangements. Bert, no?
Yeah, okay. This is interesting that this is being brought up because I'm actually just thinking about this and trying to distill like what's really going on here. I think at the end of the day, it's like context, right? Shared
Right.
context. Before, when you arrive in the office or you're together in the office, the environment, which I mentioned, environment's all the same, right? You also assume, and I think it's a proper assumption, that if the person showed up in the office, they're coming to work and they're working right now, right? Like you see them, they're in the office, they're at the desk, they're working, they're work mode. That's a shared context. So you don't need to talk about those because it's already a shared context. You're already in agreement there. You just have to talk about work.
Totoo.
But now, when you are doing remote work from home, there's no more shared context. So, in order for other people in your team to know what your current context is like, are you in work mode right now, or are you like inutusan ni mama mode right now, right? Like, or are you like are you in work mode? Are you focused right now? What's your current context right now? Wala yan.
Totoo.
So you have to spend extra time communicating that.
Mm.
And so what we've done, because of the many retrospectives in the company in Symph, one of the things that we've done is we've introduced this concept of BRB. So actually, when in our chat, in our team chat, if you type BRB, usually we expect you to add like an estimated time of return and like a reason. So BRB, 2 p.m. Have to run errands. So then
Yeah.
you type that out. But the cool part here is our chatbot saves that message. Anytime somebody at mentions you, that hey,
Mag-auto
at
reply.
Albert, it auto replies with Albert said BRB 2 p.m. like that. So right away, like, oh, people don't expect you to. So there's like we're surfacing the contexts of people without having to for them to constantly communicate. Because those were the initial rough times before when we just
Yeah.
transitioned to work from home. When somebody says BRB, and we have no idea when they're coming back. And even if they said they're coming back, when somebody chats them, if it doesn't pop up right away, then they would be like, "What nang taga mo reply?" It's like, "As per mentioned in my last chat." Like they will
Hindi ka ba nagbasa?
hindi pa ka nabasa. So there were a lot of issues around that. So we decided, oh, it should auto reply para lang no,
Smart, smart, smart,
yeah,
smart.
stuff like
Smart.
that. Cool.
There's a technical question here in chat.
Okay, let's
Is the
bring it up.
project manager the same as a product manager? Good question, actually. What are their similarities and differences, if any? Jarrey, you wanna take a stab at this one first?
Yeah, not the same. Product manager, the product manager establishes like a product vision, strategy, establishes the goal. But then if you're a project manager, you don't really have a call, like you don't get to make that call of like what's the, or I mean you're not the one establishing the vision. It's more of like you're the one driving the project slash the slash the product, if ever, like you're the one driving the project that towards that vision. So the
So
product manager,
would you say the project manager, like a product manager role is kind of like a superset of the project manager? Like it's like it overlaps that and has more, or do you see them as like kind of like they're unique in their own space and they have some overlap?
they have some overlap. I've
Okay.
met different, but I guess it also varies per company.
Per
I've met
company.
different product managers who actually does project management work, but
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
just like one of their job description. But I also know people who, I guess, like if they work in bigger companies now, they get to have different people they delegate things to. So, say a project manager, and that's based on the context of me going to like product manager communities and meeting some of them, and that's what I learned so far. So I'm actually interested with Ron, who like from Accenture to Union Bank, which is
Go Ron.
how Ron defines
What's
that.
your answer here?
Yeah. Siguro just to reiterate lang din, it really depends on the organization, no. But for bigger organizations, they have a separate product manager and project manager. So, see, product manager basically deliver or defines the value of the product, the roadmap, what are the features that you want to build in terms of your roadmap for the product, no. And then you have the project manager who works with the product manager. So the project manager initially would review the product and the journey, the product roadmap with the product manager, make sure that the value is really being delivered, or you kind of review what is the value that you want to deliver, and then plans it out how to execute it. So the siguro more of the business side sa product manager, and then the tech and execution, the actual project execution would rely with the project manager.
Correct, correct.
So
Nice.
I would add to this. Correct talaga silang dalawa, no, na to say na depends din sa company, and that depends on the industry, and then it also depends on the size of the company. So for some companies, pwede na yung product manager, sila na rin yung project manager. But for large ones, no, the IBMs of this world, larger IT firms, project managers are also, meron silang overlap with sales, no? Parang they make sure that um the project gets paid or the contract gets signed, no? Everything, all the documentation needed for a specific project, sila yung kumbaga parang responsible, no? At the same time, some of them kasi usually kasi in bigger companies, tech companies, like maybe Accenture even is following this. You can probably correct me if I'm wrong, Ron, but for IBM, I know that they reserve talent, no? So for example, my finite number of developers kasi, 'di ba? And usually there's like plenty of projects in a company. And so ipa-prioritize 'yan ng siguro ng head ng project management, no? And depending on the priority, doon ifa-funnel yung resources. So let's say for example, meron tayong project A, project B, project C. Tapos ang pinaka-priority talaga is si project A. Ang ginagawa ng mga head of project management is, okay, magre-request ako sa IT ng 5 developers, and itong 5 developers na to, i-hold ko sila for 3 months kasi yung client ko or project ko is for 3 months, right? And yung budget nila is for ganito, etc., etc. So the role of the project manager is that to make sure na yung 3 months na yon ma-achieve yung requirements, no? Yung objectives ng isang project. Second is that it is within budget, right? Kasi kung mag-over budget yan, either yung developers na ni-reserve mo, pwede na silang, kasi usually pagka after the estimate, 'di ba, parang dapat pakawalan mo na sila, 'di ba? Kasi natapos na yung ano yung project, and they might be needed with other projects as well kasi naka-pipeline, 'di ba? Isipin niyo ABC kanina yung priority. So, ganun siya, no? It could be as complicated as that, or pwede ring parang mix na siya na parang product manager, you're also in charge of business. But since you're in charge of business, you're also in charge of the deadlines, milestones, budget. Yun. So, it depends. Ayun. Ano pa ba? I think there's a lot of comment on chat. So, maraming fan club si Ron and si Jarrhey dito. You can't spell success without Jarrhey. You know? Woohoo! Big Boss COO Jarrhey. Marami din. Go Idol Ron G. Fan Club of Sir Ron. What's this? Aris Villarin. So, biggest budget. Success or not? What measure of success was used? I don't know what to make of this question. Maybe if you can clarify. Or you guys can... How do you guys interpret this question?
I guess Aris is asking the biggest budget for a project that we've handled and whether it was success or not.
Magaling mag-extract ng requirements yung mga project managers.
Isa din yan na requirement actually.
I was
How
vague
role.
communication, deciphering it,
Oo.
translating it into clarity.
Gagawing
Galing.
scope of work.
So yeah, maybe like I don't know if you want to talk about like a budgets and amounts, or maybe give like a vague range or something, but
Yeah.
or success stories around those things.
Yeah. I don't think Ron can give too much details. But yeah, go ahead, Ron.
Reminder from your CTO, Ron, you can't give too much details.
Hindi, pwede naman like ballpark. Hundreds of millions. Di ba, mga ganun. Yeah.
I'd like to answer it, but siguro... yeah, go
Jarrhey,
ahead,
you were saying, Jarrhey.
Or we can focus on like how do we measure success in a project.
Pwede.
We can focus on that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
go
guess for traditional measurement kasi it's more of whether you were able to deliver it within scope, the budget, and the timeline, most especially. But that's the tricky part kasi with project management eh. When you compromise any of the three, naghihilaan yun eh.
Yeah.
So, let's say, kunyari, si client would want additional scope, or kapag nagkakaroon ng mga scope creep, patay na yung timeline mo and budget dyan. So, I guess that's what we use in terms of the traditional way of measuring the success of a project. No? Siguro experience ko naman, marami namang successes. And of course, especially nung nagsa-start pa lang ako, syempre meron ding mga projects na I would say na delay because of various reasons then.
Yeah, so that's actually quite interesting. You mentioned like scope creep, right? Because scope creep, by definition, is because something you haven't thought of before or not included in the initial plan or estimations is now coming in, right? Like, how do you deal with that, right? Because I've in my experience, estimations have always been wrong, but it's almost always the job of the project manager to kind of communicate that. So yeah, tell us about your thoughts on that, around that. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, siguro in terms of scope creeping, no, based din kasi sa experience ko before, wala talagang client or PO na they know exactly what they want. They most of the times they have an idea, but that's where you really come in talaga to sit with your clients and see, oh, is this what you want? So this is what will happen if this is your requirement. So you kind of help them out in realizing what are the implications of their specific requirements. So that's a way for you to really try to prevent scope creep, but that's not 100% because I guess in the spirit of agile din, no, when there's a requirement, this requirement may be true today, but not necessarily be applicable in the coming
Oo.
months.
Yeah, yeah.
So you have to revisit that, and yun nga, sa agile kasi you can fail fast and learn from the mistakes and see the market trend and all. So we wouldn't say it's a scope creep, but it's more of a change uh, in the requirement of the business, and at least you know that the previous requirement would not work today. So, yeah. Siguro yung scope creeping within sprints or within the timeline, that's something that you have to watch out as a project manager. You have to shield the team from those additional requirements, especially may iba kasing clients when they know the developers or the people within the
Go
team.
backdoor.
Ako, sabi, uy, madali
Singit pa,
lang to,
singit.
pwede bang ipasok na yan? So, you have to remind the team always na when there's a new requirement, you tell me first so that we can assess. Because we don't know if that requirement may be easy for one developer, but will have implications sa other features or functions. So, yeah. You have to be on guard as project managers.
Cool, cool,
And
cool.
to add to
Totoo.
the golden triangle that Ron mentioned about the scope, the cost, the budget, and the
Timeline.
time, yeah. Like I just also remembered I just talked to the project managers like a few months ago. Like we had this even made that a part of the process. During kickoff, the clients need to understand that there's this triangle that they will be playing with.
Yeah.
So that's a good one also.
Yeah, totoo, totoo. Actually, that's a very good way to put it, no? Kasi those three things really are those would shift, no, as the project goes. And as Ron mentioned, as a project manager, you have to allow for flexibility for those things to happen. Now, as a client, you should understand that, dragging a certain portion on that triangle actually impacts the others. So, um okay, so puro pa shoutout lang dito sa chat.
I like the
Pa-shoutout.
shout outs because it just shows you like how project managers or effective managers are really they have a safe space. They've
People,
created a safe space with people that people are not
yeah, yeah.
afraid to like do all these things to them. Right? I just thought about it like people don't do this to me. Like, oh my gosh, I'm not likable. I'm already going to like, oh yeah.
Wala ka,
But
Bert.
yeah, I know. But okay, let's talk about like let's talk and answer some questions around where somebody is trying to figure out like and plot their career path, right?
Mm.
For project management, what are the things you're looking out for when you're going to hire a project manager, for example, like early junior stage? What are
Yeah.
the things you're looking out for? What are the red flags that you are
Mm.
avoiding? Let's start with that, and then later let's talk about like things that you've seen in reality where people have done that to really fast forward their career, and things that they've done that kind of
Mga career
sabotage
Yeah.
their career, like reverse of that. So let's start
Yeah.
with like what are you looking for in a young project manager?
Important qualities for you to be a successful project manager.
Go, Ron.
Sige. I guess if I'm going to hire a young project manager, no, I would want to see the willingness to learn and ability to handle failures. Kasi if you're a young project manager, you don't expect to do the right things all the time. You're what I learned is actually yung mistakes in decision making, the issues that you're going to encounter. That's really what's going to shape you as a great project manager. So as they saying, experience is the best teacher, no? So that's what's going to build you, and the quality that you need to see if the young potential project manager has is ability to really learn from mistakes, have ownership for his decisions, and be able to, I guess, move on. Kasi yung iba traumatized talaga dun sa mga, lalo na pag malalaki yung issue, at some point they would question themselves and all. So they should be able to really just let it go and learn from it.
Oo nga. Those are good qualities. So,
I did not
um,
expect that, but that was interesting.
willingness to learn, and then and with learning comes letting go of or well, learning from mistakes and letting go of things, no, na don't be too hard on yourself, I guess, no.
Parang natatakot na ako. If I was a young person, tapos I'm considering project management, parang natatakot na ako. Like Ron is saying, like, oh, there will be a lot
I
of
will
failures.
make
I have to be
mistakes.
learned to move on, and like I don't want to experience those anymore.
Pero quite a position, like, not to say like pedestal, right? But it's quite a position kasi you're coming in junior, but you're managing people, right?
Right.
And so it's quite important talaga na, you know, your learning quotient is quite high, and at the same time na, you know, mistakes are mistakes, and of course you need to address them. You might be, you know, pwede kang pagalitan, pero you have to learn, and then after that, that's you move forward, I guess, no? Kasi
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
stuck, that's gonna be bad for your career.
And
Um,
siguro just
Go
to
ahead,
add
Ron.
lang din, Jerb, especially for young project managers, they'll encounter teams na they'll manage people older than them.
totoo.
So you have to learn from those people also, not just hindi yung dahil ikaw yung PM, ikaw yung laging masusunod. No, you have to listen to your team as well.
Correct. Actually,
That's
dagdag yan sa
interesting.
challenge, no? Kasi
Mm.
older than you, more senior than you in the company, meaning matagal na, marami nang nagawa, 'di ba? And yet as a project manager, you come in and you're like in a position of authority. Go Bert,
Let's
go Bert.
dig deep on that. I like that because most of the juniors will come in, and that's the first thing they'll encounter. There will be more experienced developers, senior developers in them, and now they're project manager. What's your tips?
Siguro if you encounter scenarios like that, make sure that you respect them, you respect their inputs, and make sure they're heard. Assess their inputs. Again, if you're a young project manager, you have to grow your experience, and your experience can come from inputs from those who have already experienced issues or experienced these things. So you don't have to necessarily parang encounter big issues talaga, but if you value those inputs from your older team members, that's a way to prevent, and yun nga na natakot si Bert kanina to make issues parang to encounter big issues, no?
Di
So
mo
that's a way
maiwasan
to
yun, eh.
prevent. Yeah. And just to siguro siguro tip na lang din, no, there's no perfect project. Talagang kahit anong project, meron at merong magiging issue yan, kahit maliit or maliit.
Yeah, totoo.
Jarrey, what's your thoughts on this? Especially because, like you're young, as you said.
Um,
Aray.
I,
Naging na-reverse. Go.
well, if it's any consolation, I feel like I'm the oldest looking here. Um,
Thank you.
one thing that I like going into project management, one thing I always kept in mind, I always cringe when people when my teammates say like I'm under Jarrhey, like I never really look at it like I'm managing people under me. Like I always look at it as like a circle, like we're all in the same, or we're all on the same level. I just have a different job description. They have a different job description. They have a different, and we are all in one line, all on the same team, and so I just coordinate with everyone, and that's how I always looked at it. And that way, it was when if it feels intimidating, I feel when I have that structure in mind, like I don't feel intimidated anymore because my success is their success is also
Mm.
my success. Like
Correct,
it's not
correct.
my name on the line.
Totoo. It's everyone's, right? It's a collaborative activity, and
Yeah.
everyone shares the spoils. So there's a comment here from Nicole. Sabi ni Nikki, working with senior devs was my early struggles as a noob project manager. I was so intimidated by them. I listened to them, but I feel scared to correct them or tell them what to do. Ay, totoo yan. And well, it's part of it talaga, no? And I guess it's also kasi part of your role, responsibility na to take in and deal with such people. It's not gonna be easy. Pero sabi ni Colleen dito, no perfect project, but there's a perfect project manager. Galing, galing, galing,
Truth,
galing.
speaking the truth. Awesome,
Sige,
awesome.
Colleen, sige, dinner na tayo.
Ganun pala, ganun pala. Oh, let's go to Albert's question kanina. Like advice, like career hacks for people who are working as a project manager now or scrum master. What would be your advice to them? How should they approach their career? How should they like I guess tips on moving forward and getting to places like what you guys have done so far.
Jarrhey, maybe you want to take this one first.
Go ahead.
I'd say I don't know if this is a good advice, but like take every opportunity you can. I think that's how I got to where I am. If there's an opportunity to contribute, contribute. If there's an opportunity to lead, go ahead and lead, and just take that opportunity. At the same time, keep yourself exposed to like read books, learn from people older than you, and just keep exposing yourself to like agile software development and anything related to that, new articles and whatnot.
Yeah, this ties into nicely with what Ron said about like the ability to learn. Um, so it's like applying that. Okay. How about you,
Yeah.
Ron?
Yeah. Siguro best career hack I can say, and not only to project management. I always say this to my team. No, just enjoy what you do. It will really show. Yung mga issues na may encounter nyo, if you enjoy what you do, you won't look at it in a negative way. You'll be seeing it as a challenge and appreciate the learnings you'll get from it. And I just want to echo what was mentioned earlier. No? So if there are other opportunities, grab it because you won't know what you're really capable of. What's your limit if you don't take opportunities? I did event organizing sa companies. I did games, hosting, uh, project
Naging
management
MC.
here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of these things will really develop you in terms of communication, organizing, how to deal with different personalities and all. So all of these will really shape you as a great project manager.
And to add to that, I would say like working with difficult people. I'd say it's also important to practice engaging in difficult conversations. I mean, you don't have to be working to be able to practice that. Like, go have a conversation with a friend. Like be able to handle difficult conversations because as a project manager, you will have many. in
Yeah,
a good
yeah,
way.
yeah. That's actually a very good skill to have. Like even in
Yeah,
life, right?
Mhm.
yeah,
Like like a lot of people would shy away or walk away from tough conversations and hindi na
Mhm.
ma-address yung issue, which
Mhm.
to your point, no, it would be it would probably spell disaster for your role or the project. um I think the last question of Albert earlier was like what are you guys like what to watch out for, like what are the mistakes, no, parang
Yeah.
if you guys can give
Pitfalls.
pitfalls or give people advice about like pitfalls, mistakes, like what to avoid as a project manager. Ron, baka you want to start naman on this one.
Yeah, siguro based on personal experience then, especially when I was new, I was afraid to ask for help.
Oh.
Mm,
So I initially thought na PM na ako, kaya ko lahat 'to. Kaya kong i-manage 'to. And then ayun, so you kind of hesitate asking for help because you think it's a sign of weakness, but it's not.
nice.
So
Um, yeah, I wanted to like take a cut 10 seconds ago and replay it because it's so good. Like I really, really agree with you, Ron. Like that's one of like the biggest mistakes that like
Not
new
asking
project
for help.
managers do. Yeah, like kaya later on masabog na yung project and then they're like, how did it get to this? Why didn't you ask for help? And they're like, I don't know.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I guess part of it also is parang you're trying to own it talaga, no? Na and you
mm,
probably think na hindi kaya pa namin to, parang ganun. Pero
mm,
I think earlier on, and I think Jarrey mentioned earlier na communication is really key, no? And it's really important. Um, when there's smoke, there's fire. So, like the sooner you mention that to like your CTO perhaps or your boss or get just get help from the team, the better, di ba? Kasi you guys are all in it together, right? And so
Mhm. Yeah,
trying to carry all that burden might would be disastrous. Like good
loved it,
one.
loved it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Jare, ikaw.
well, my answer was actually around the same point that Jer mentioned. Communicating early and often. I would say, like that's one of the easy things to overlook. Like when you like I can just give this to myself. I have this managed. I'm a project manager. Like I have everything managed, and you never really communicate things. So I one of the most important things you should do is to communicate early and often, and that's yeah. That's also a skill in like stakeholder management, right? And which is a very important skill to have as a project manager. So communicate early and often.
Cool, cool. Bert, any more questions?
I okay, Miss Universe question, right? Let's maybe end with this one. Like, what's one trait that would disqualify a project manager for you? Meaning, like they fit all the checklists of like the technical skills or whatever skills that they needed, right? Like they're good at organizing time. What are the things that would like if you see this is a red flag, I won't do it. Deal breaker for you.
I'll
Go,
start.
Jerry.
For me would be when they're not adaptable to change. And
Mm,
I mean, because like here's the thing, especially in software development, when I see someone that's not adaptable to change, I feel like they would do good in like traditional project management. But I remember introducing myself as like a project manager. People had a look at me. Oh, this guy's like it's like stiff and like like needs to like always looks for deadlines. But I realized in agile software development, the ability to adapt to change, whether it's from scope, timeline, or anything else, like the ability to handle change and know where to position that, I think is one of the most important thing, responding to change, adapting to change. So the moment I see someone who wants to be a project manager, but then they don't really handle change so well, I feel I then become like, okay, you're probably a good project manager somewhere else, not in a software development.
Very nice
Not
way of
instant.
saying no wonder people like you. You're probably good at somewhere else. How about you, Ron?
I guess siguro yung not necessarily being dishonest, but more of
Mm.
padding, too much padding. So,
What's padding?
parang masyado kang I guess kunyari yung status mo
Buffer.
is, yeah, parang buffer
Mm.
siya. Pero let's say kunyari you've requested for this budget and then you padded a lot, or you're reporting amber status na, ay, your project is amber status na, or you're seeing there's delay but you're still reporting it as green because you see na kaya to,
Mm.
yung mga ganyan.
Mm-mm.
So
Parang
that's a red
integrity.
flag for me.
Integrity.
Yes.
So you
Actually.
paint things better, like you kind of like paint things, cover things up a little bit, make it look, present it nicer, like.
Yes.
Mm. Parang I will have a hard time trusting a project manager like that. Like parang
Yeah.
lagi na lang
Yeah,
okay
yeah.
walang
Oh,
issues.
walang problema. Oo.
Walang problema. Kinakabahan na ako. All right. Well, this was good. Abjur, do you
yeah.
have any other stuff, or I think
There's a very good question kasi on Chatbird. So
Okay,
if
go.
you guys are fine with it, siguro we can extend a
Ooh.
few more minutes. A bit controversial, but as a
Tough
PM,
conversations.
how do you handle underperforming team members? Actually, curious about this one as well. Go ahead, guys. So whoever wants to take this one first before we wrap up.
Okay, I'll go first. So this one thing, I just talk to them. So which is like one of the hard conversations, right? So when someone is underperforming, I talk to them. First thing that, like, the usual pattern of the conversation is asking what's going on with them, like knowing where they are at in life, then asking about the work, then talking, like, then just so before I bring up that they're underperforming, I already have context with where they are and how they see their work at the moment. Then it's a matter of communicating that, and lastly asking what can I do to help. So that's which is the usual flow. And the most important thing would then be talk to them as early as possible and not put that for later.
You
Ron?
make it sound so simple. Yeah.
Hindi
Go,
pala
Ron.
parang controversial. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, siguro it would be the same process, no? Talk to the team member. But I think what I just want to add is maybe that person is not the perfect fit dun sa role or dun sa inassign a job, no? So maybe you can discover what are his or her strengths and then capitalize on that. See if there's still an available role within the project team to really for him or her to contribute and shine. So, but at the end of it all, you just need to talk to the person, communicate, and at as early as possible if you see red flags or signs that medyo nahuhuli na siya. Kasi pag kunyari sa rating season, sa dulo mo na sinabi, there's no way to correct it na eh. So, mas masakit yun dun sa tao kasi hindi mo sinabi kagad.
That's I'm curious that you said something like, well, I forgot what you said, but what's in my mind is, how many chances do you give? Like, do you give second chances, 3 chances? Like, what's your usual before you like decide like, okay, talagang hindi na fit, hindi na pwede, move on?
I guess depending on the amount of time and the room that you have, you would give him, I guess, 2-3 chances, and then, pero within those chances, you have to consistently talk. Oh, sige, second chance, you give them this, and then let's have a touch point on how you're doing, and then if hindi pa rin okay, and then third chance, this is your last chance. So if there's still no progress, and then at least you have a dialogue and
Right.
the other party is also aligned on the consequences.
Correct,
Interesting.
correct. Like in more formal companies, they would probably like have some companies call it like a PIP, parang performance improvement plan. No, that it's like a formal document that you guys actually agree on at a certain time or 3 months, for example. We take into consideration these three things, for example, or five na you need to improve on, and then by that time, if wala pa ring improvement na nakikita, um then there could be actions done, no? Those things. So, hey, we are at the hour and actually more
Oh my
na.
God.
But this was a very engaging episode. Thank you so much for all the comments and all the shout outs, pa shout out dyan sa comment section.
Yeah.
Very, very exciting episode. Very insightful as well, no? Thank you everyone for joining us. Bert, you wanna say a few words before we say goodbye to everybody?
No, I just want to say thank you for joining us, Ron and Jarrey. I
Yep,
was
yep.
really struck by the engagement in the comments, which goes to show really like how awesome you guys are and how loved
People,
and I think how people you are, right?
yeah.
And I kind of like felt like oh, thank you, Jonil, for for doing that. But I felt like wow, like that's really cool. And I think for future project managers, that's one thing to note, right? How do you create a safe space? How do you create a space where people love to work with other people and have a happy environment, because things could be failing and stuff like that, and yet
Mm,
people would be happy to still come to work and do their best. I love that, and this was a great insight for me. So thank you for
ayan.
for sharing all your thoughts. To everyone, we still have some episodes left for our career in IT. I think what's our next episode, Jerb, about
Quality assurance naman.
quality assurance.
So that's
So
also another interesting one kasi wala namang course for quality assurance. The very, very good resource. We've actually invited the pioneer for quality engineering in the Philippines. No? So look out for that on the next episode. But again, thank you so much, guys, for joining us this evening. Shout out sa lahat ng mga nasa comment section. We hope to see you guys next Saturday. And that's it for this episode of CTOs Discuss. So thank you again, Ron. Thanks, Jarrey. Thanks, Albert. See you
Thanks,
guys.
Albert. Thanks, Jerb.
Thank you.
bye bye.
Bye-bye.
What I've seen that hinders a lot of people in general is they believe that doing their job well actually gets them promoted.
So how would you demystify AI for a 10-year-old?
It's actually harder to explain AI to an older person. Hi, welcome to CTOs Discuss.
So you want to work in big tech companies like Google and Facebook, or create your own startup like Airbnb and Instagram? OmniQuotient is here to help. OmniQuotient is an online learning platform where you can learn something new from prominent developers every day while creating meaningful connections with them. Just go to omniquotient.com. Follow the topics that you want to learn and the developers you want to learn from. Share your tips and tricks in coding and interact with other developers. Join the OmniQuotient community today.